Welcome to another episode of the Dental Insiders with your hosts, Matthew Petchel and Michael Dunn. The Dental Insiders is a podcast for dentists, dental team members, and industry professionals. We'll share stories and lessons from clinicians and industry visionaries with the goal of providing an entertaining and informative look at the industry we share. And our guest today certainly falls under the industry visionary category. We've got Mr. Ron Saslow, CEO of Hu-Friedy. Welcome, Ron. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks. We're not sure what bet you lost to have to be on this, but we appreciate you being here.
I was going to say what bet you won.
What bet you won? See, that's you and I see it differently, and that's maybe why we're perfect together.
Yes. So
chocolate and peanut butter.
Yes, that's one way to put it.
All right.
So, awkward pauses aside. So Ron, I'm curious. Whenever we talk to an executive or a company leader, it's interesting. It's interesting to know. Back when you were in school, did you ever think that you would be head of a global dental company? I mean, are you doing now what you thought you'd be doing back then?
I'm really not. So certainly Hu-Friedy has been in my family since 1959, so I can't pretend I had no idea that was a possibility. But really going to school from high school and in the college days, I was pretty convinced that this was not going to be my path. I went to school in St. Louis, undergrad, and then I moved out to Boston for a while and was pretty convinced that neither living in Chicago or being part of Hu-Friedy was going to be part of the mix. But that definitely changed.
Well, and that's probably not uncommon from a lot of dentists,
right,
who think my dad's a dentist. I definitely don't want to do that. And then all of a sudden
they've got practice.
All of a sudden, the options start to get thin, and they go, it's in my family. I know it. I feel like it's
time to get my hands on somebody.
Yeah, and then I'm probably good at it if it's in there. So tell me the history of, so Hu-Friedy is named after Hugo Friedman. Is that right?
Very good. Yes, Hugo Friedman. He was an Austrian instrument maker. He moved to Chicago in about 1906. And he decided to set up a manufacturing business for dental products. So in 1908, he officially formed Hu-Friedy, and thus the Hugo Friedman, as you had mentioned, and started making instruments. And he did a great job at that time. He was all about quality, which is a big part of what we are today, but a super small size. He ran the company from 08 to 1959, and he did it never getting more than 6 people in the operation, which is pretty amazing. So through the Depression, through all the good times, the bad times, he hung in there and did a really great job of making, albeit at a boutique level, just making amazing dental instruments.
So you mentioned a couple of times this pivotal year, 1959. So tell me, Austrian instrument maker Hugo Friedman, how does he get involved with the Saslow family? Like, where's the connection?
That's great question. So my dad in 1959 returned from fighting in the Korean War, and his father at that point was in the dental lab business, and his uncle ran a company called D.L. Saslow, which was one of the big distributors, eventually became Patterson Dental. My dad loved his dad, he loved his brother, but he knew he didn't want to work with them. So he was kicking around looking for some different options. And I think it was my uncle, his brother, had said, there's this guy, Hugo, small little company in Chicago, but great products, and I don't think he has family or anyone to pass the business down to or sell it or anything. So maybe you want to go meet him and see if there's a connection. And sure enough, he did, and they became friendly. And I feel my dad was the son that Hugo never had, and worked with him for a little while. And at some point soon after that, he decided that in fact he was going to sell the company, and my dad was going to be the guy who was going to sell it to. And a story that goes along with it, I always call it a cute story, but it involves death, so I guess I can't call it cute. But Hugo, for all those years, those 50 years, had never taken a vacation or done anything, outside of the business. He was working so hard at it. So my dad signed the check. I think it was on a Thursday. Friday, Hugo goes down to Miami to vacation for 2 weeks, and then the plan was for him to come back and teach them everything about manufacturing dental instruments. Well, as fate unfortunately had it, Hugo, on day 3 of his vacation, had a heart attack and passed away. And so it was the morning that my dad was first going to go down and meet the staff of 5 at that point and have Hugo show him the ropes. And obviously Hugo didn't come back. And so my dad had to take a pretty scary car ride down to meet all his new employees and tell them that the sad news about Hugo, of course, and that he was going to be the new guy running the show.
Wow. That is not, I mean, I like a good challenge,
Right.
but that might be more than I'm ready for.
That, and so your dad takes over this, I think you said, 6-employee company or 5-employee company, this boutique firm. You're now, what, around 800 employees, something like that?
We're right around 800. So yeah, so we've definitely grown it over the years. And my dad did a phenomenal job of growing it from 59 when he got involved to 2000 when he'd officially, turned it over to me. I joined in 90, so we overlapped for about 10 years. And luckily for me, he's still very involved. When he's in town, he lives out of Chicago, which any sane person will do given the opportunity. During the bad months, he comes back in the summers, and when he isn't, he likes to pop in for a couple hours now and then and share some of his great advice and wisdom and experience.
That's great. So what's the best piece of advice? Actually, no, let's go here. What's the worst piece of advice your dad ever gave you?
Oh, the worst piece of advice.
My dad's, I'll tell you what my dad's is, what you think, because I put you on the spot there. My dad's was, nothing good happens after midnight.
Yes.
That's horrible advice.
Really?
That's when all the good stuff happened. When I was in high school and college, that was,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So what's the worst piece of advice your dad?
So knowing that my father will hopefully be watching this, I feel somewhat awkward saying any bad advice he's given me because he's given me some pretty good advice over the years, I will say.
All right. Let's get the good stuff then.
Okay, so a couple of the good things that he's taught me. First of all, is to follow your passion. And one of the great things he did for me, I also have a sister and a brother, older sister, younger brother. And for all 3 of us, he was so firm in his belief to not get involved in Hu-Friedy if it wasn't our passion and it wasn't something that we're going to love to do every day. And he kept saying that Hu-Friedy is not a monument to the Saslow family in any way. It was a great thing for him to be involved with. And, to my earlier story of not knowing that I was going to end up here, I think a lot of it was in his advice of don't do things for the wrong reason, get involved if it's your passion. My sister chose to pursue other passions, as did my brother. And after a bunch of years, I eventually did get involved with Hu-Friedy when it was something that I was passionate about and then became something I really wanted to dedicate my life toward. But in terms of advice, that was pretty good advice because, you hear stories and I have friends who've gotten involved in businesses, whether it was their parents' business or just the type of occupation that their parents thought they should pursue. And not that it never works out, but it rarely works out. So, it was great for me. I did a couple other things before getting involved in the company. When I did come on board, I fell in love with it, and a few years in, decided that this is really something that I wanted to do for my life.
Cool.
So
So
that's really cool. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, and I have a confession to make. In my office at home, I have a little stuffed doll sitting in the office. It's a instrument named Nevi. I have a Nevi doll, and I've actually toured the Hu-Friedy. I know
This isn't going to get creepy.
No.
Or creepier.
No, it's not going to get creepier. But I've toured the manufacturing plant of Hu-Friedy up in the Chicago area, and I'm a bit fascinated by how you name some of the products, and I'm just talk to us a little bit about where some of those names come from, and how you involve various customers and other people in development of your products. I think it's an interesting topic.
Indeed. So let's start with Nevi because that's an easy example. So the Nevi product was named after Neville Hammond. And Neville Hammond is our senior most instrument maker. I always give him a hard time because he joined the company the year I was born. So it's an easy way to remember how long he's been here. But guys like that who make a major impact on the company and in particular on this product, we like to give credit to them because they're the ones that are putting the work in and figuring out where the holes are and helping us create products. In addition to Neville from somebody on the Hu-Friedy team, a vast majority of our products are named after doctors and hygienists who work with us, who come to us with new ideas. If you open the back of the Hu-Friedy book and you look at all the different product names, so many of them are practitioners who had a great idea, who trusted Hu-Friedy to bring that idea to life. And again, we're always proud to have the Hu-Friedy name on it, but really we want to make sure that their names are associated with it as well, because they're great ideas and they deserve it. And it helps us not only bring new ideas to the market and get practitioners excited about bringing new ideas to us, but it's appropriate recognition for those who come up with those great ideas.
That's awesome.
That is cool. It's I think all dentists are creative and entrepreneurial in some way. Right? They all have ideas. They have some kind of invention, or they got some gadget, or
whether it's artist or engineer or artigineer.
That's a good one.
Did we just make up a word? I think we might have.
Well, we're gonna work on that one. But yeah.
and so to have an outlet, it's almost like there's someone, and I know other companies do. I don't know if anybody does anything exactly like that. I think it's a cool thing that there's like almost a place where they can go and share that. I think clinicians appreciate it too.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I can speak from, I went on a tour one year around Chicago midwinter time, and I was struck by, and you mentioned Neville Hammond, I was struck by the actual hand craftsmanship going into making these instruments. Yes, there's some robotics, but there's also people there actually manufacturing these instruments.
Right.
They're going to be used by dentists every day and hygienists every day. And a lot of these people, it's not like, oh, I've been working here a couple of years. I've been working here 20 years. I've been working here 30 years. I've been working here 15 years. And, I think that's, I'm on a soapbox a little bit, but I think that's important because we talk about, this is an American manufacturing company. You're based right outside of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's an important or an interesting topic for our audience in that, you've got these people, generations working there, oftentimes, handcrafting these instruments. Talk a little bit about your philosophies of American manufacturing and what it means to your community as well as the general dental community at large.
Yep. Great question. And from our standpoint, we are a manufacturing company. That's what we do, and we're very proud of it. We love the fact that we started in Chicago over 100 years ago. We're still located in Chicago. A vast majority of our manufacturing is happening in Chicago. And by the way, to both of you and to anyone who's listening to this, we always welcome practitioners to come on in and get a tour and let us show them around and how the instruments are made and who's making them. And the feedback we've gotten has been great on that. So please take us up on the tour invitation. But we have a really neat mix as well. And when you walk through the factory, as you mentioned, you see both things. You see amazing artists who are out there on the wheels and crafting and shaping and making instruments. And then right next to it, you see an amazingly advanced technological robot that's helping put together pieces as well. So what we found is one isn't better than the other. What's great is the combination of the two. We're able to continue to advance the quality of our products by using the latest and greatest technology, but we're also smart enough to realize that so much that goes into crafting instruments is the hand touch, is the person looking and working on each and every one of the millions of pieces that leave our door. Every one of them has been worked on by human beings who, after years and years of training and practice, they get what the instrument's supposed to do and what it's supposed to look like. Again, they benefit from the technology, but they also rely on their experience of creating and truly crafting instruments for the dentists.
That's cool. So what is it's funny, naming products after actual clinicians is something a small company does, right? Because in theory, it's something, but this company that has 800 employees, this big global company, to do that is an interesting kind of strategy. And what's your management style? Like what led you to that kind of, initiative? And how do you keep 800 people going in the same direction? And what's your management style and how you do that?
Yes. Well, our philosophy is that we're a large, small company. And I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but somewhat seriously. We are still a private company. We're still a family business. And those are a huge part of our culture, and certainly something that I continue to preach to everyone involved in the company is that we don't want to be, bigger just for the sake of bigger, and we certainly don't want to bring bureaucracy and other things that somewhat torment larger companies. So things like you mentioned, whether it's naming products after people involved with them, or just the way we live our lives and go about our business, we celebrate the fact that yes, it's a lot of people involved in it and we have grown a lot, but we still like that small, nimble, entrepreneurial feel around it. And me and the rest of the management team try very hard to keep that feeling alive. Again, you can, get better as you get bigger for sure, but there's also things that can be lost that we're not willing to sacrifice. We love being private. We love being nimble. We love making decisions that are good for the long-term health of the company and the long-term betterment of dentistry. And we don't get all caught up about what Wall Street's going to say about us or what the quarterly earnings are going to be. And I think that's, it's easy to say those things, but I think the 800 plus people who are part of this family, they understand it because they see those decisions. They see that we purposely, go out of our way to act young and nimble and to make investments that other companies would be scared to do because they won't have immediate payback. And the way we treat our employees and the way we go about really living our lives. I'm proud because it's a very entrepreneurial feel for a company that has been around for over 100 years and has avoided the temptation to become old and stodgy and boring.
Right. And it's actually not far off from most multi-doctor or even single doctor practices, which is it's entrepreneurial. There's opportunity for investment, but you can't get so big that people forget about you. You have to keep the personal touch. You've got to keep the team motivated. You've got to keep all those things. I see a lot of similarities between kind of what you're doing and what even a 2-doc practice with 8 chairs and an associate and, that kind of practice is running. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
You want to, you were going to go to this one?
I was going to ask a question, but I thought you had a,
No, I did my follow-up.
thought you had
I
another
just
question.
tied it up. I did a little neat tie-up.